What's going on, YouTube? So, as everyone knows, we are all very excited for the buffs in the game. Mainly today, I'll be going over the Smithereens shotgun. The Smithereens has seen a massive attack in its firearm. Its firearm attack used to be similar to the Executor shotgun. Now it is much higher. As you can see, it is 14,562 on base, and the Executor is only 7,722. I will go into the best build for the Smithereens as far as damage output is concerned. There's a couple of quality of life changes that you can change, and the best use cases for Smithereens as well. With the rolls on Smithereens, you definitely want firearm attack in all cases. If you want the Smithereens for bossing, I do highly recommend bonus firearm attack on Colossi because it scales with the rest of the build and it is quite useful. You would think that the elemental attack of the element that you're stacking on your gun would be good, but in this case, it really just adds 2.6% extra damage, so I don't really think that it's worth it as far as a roll goes. So unfortunately, I am stuck here spinning material after material after material. Now this purple firearm critical hit damage at 10.4%, maxing out at 11.1%. I don't think it's worth it from a material expenditure to try to roll gold on a not 1 or 2 slot. So I'll probably just use this until I get weak point where the bonus firearm attack Legion of Immortality is. So how does Smithereen functions? Smithereen is a shotgun for anyone that does not know Smithereens, and all heavy ammo was buffed as far as ammo goes. Smithereens now boasts a nice 16 round magazine. Its unique ability locks it at a firearm critical hit rate of 100% whenever you hit an enemy with all pellets. And then if you critical hit an enemy, you are granted amplification. So basically, if you hit an enemy with all pellets, you are granted amplification and fearlessness, as there is no name for on landing all bullets. And you don't have to worry about it proccing on the second shot. On the first shot, you get the whole crit spread. I have found Smithereens a very interesting gun to build in the fact that you actually will lose damage putting a fire rate module on the build. That is simply because every other module that you can put on the build just gives you more than the increase of fire rate. Of course, we have action and reaction and rifling reinforcement. This is basically going to go on every gun that you build. Better concentration for the increased firearm critical hit damage as your critical hit is 100%. We do not need better insight due to the fact that we don't need critical hit rate. Concentration priority, once again, critical hit damage is the most important thing on Smithereens, and then a weak point sight and targeted vulnerability, the two other strongest weak point modules. The accuracy minus 20%, I can see someone not wanting that or replacing targeted vulnerability with something similar to Hawkeye, due to the fact that accuracy is important on shotguns. But we YOLO for damage, I want damage. Give me those numbers. That is personal preference though. Real life fighter I find a must on shotgun due to the fact that it procs on pellets. You'll see in one shot I get 10 stacks of my real life fighter. So real life fighter for shotguns is almost the only play here. Next up, Shell Up is a shotgun specific module, and it gives you 33% extra shell capacity. In this case, Smithereens will get 3 more shells with Shell Up. Then we have electric circulation and electric enhancement. Electric enhancement and electric or elemental procs on shotguns is better than on other guns that aren't shotguns, due to the fact that everything is put into firearm attack and critical hit damage. The only thing elemental doesn't proc on is weak point. So if your gun gets a lot of damage out of its weak point, then elemental modules probably aren't the best modules for that weapon, i.e. sniper rifles, hand cannons, things of that nature. So you have a 30% increase of firearm attack, which is almost directly replaced to damage as long as you aren't calculating weak point and then 89% increase for 5 seconds on the electric enhancement. So your 30% is actually being increased by 89% with electric circulation. Now, there has been a change in how damage numbers pop up. You'll see I'm hitting for 255,000. Now, before this Season 2 update, whenever you would shoot an enemy, the elemental damage would come up separately. But now it is actually part of the damage number that comes up, and it doesn't display the damage type. So when we put our electric enhancement, it goes from 255 damage to 284 damage. Then we have electric circulation, and that goes from 284,000 to 325,000. Now keep in mind this module itself does have a cooldown. The cooldown is 20 seconds. You only get it for 5 seconds. So if you're kind of trying to calculate how much your damage rotation would be for someone similar to Glay, this would only be useful for 25% of the time. So the circulation modules is not something I would have on a Glay gun build due to the fact that you're not cycling in and out of your damage cycles with Glay. You're just hammering down damage. There is another inversion reinforcement that is very important for all of these builds on the Smithereens, or at least mine, and that is the focus rounds. You have one of each element, so whichever element you stack on your Smithereens is going to be the best one. So here I have 4.8% of firearm attack for 30 seconds up to 5 stacks, but then that is in fact increased with the circulation modules. So just make sure you're synergizing your character correctly. And you too can hit a level 1 Annihilator for 325,000 damage per pellet. As far as use cases go for Smithereens, I would say one of the best use cases is Ultimate Bunny, or in my case, Shotgun Bunny. Shotgun Bunny is a type of build I like to run where you proc Firing Fiesta, you can see 15. You get a lot of rounds for free, and it works especially well with the circulation module because you have to cycle your damage cycles anyway. Any Descendant can use the Smithereen shotgun quite effectively. However, I do think Sharen here is the best use case for the Smithereen shotgun. And that comes down to two things, really. One thing is her natural passive, which outgoing damage increases on enemies not targeting you by 15%. This works for all weapons as well, so all of your weapon damage is increased by 15% as long as the enemy is not targeting you. Another one is the module Overcharged Edge. Overcharged Edge increases her second ability, which naturally increases the outgoing damage of the attack. So for instance, if I have no modules on, I go from 316,000 to 600,000. But Overcharged Edge, you see a skyrocket in that. And then we can hit for somewhere near 900,000 damage per pellet, or 858. So we have 10 pellets here. Shell up gives us an extra 3 pellets. That would be 13. And then the passive, of course, gives us an extra 4. So that's 17. 17 times 858,000 is a maximum output of 14 million damage per round on the Smithereens, whilst proccing her Overcharged Edge. This ability is without shot focus, it is without annihilation set, and it is without walk on a tightrope, which if you equipped all 3 of those, you would do even more damage than that. However, I do prefer a balanced build where skill damage can come into play. I like having the aspect to do skill damage and gun damage on most of my builds because I just find it more fun to play the game that way. We will go to everyone's favorite testing dummy, the Devourer. And you can see the shot that I procced after hitting the overcharged edge did massive amounts of damage. And another module, Ambushed, which I do believe is probably the best way to play Smithereens, is a Transcendent module on Sharen. When you defeat an enemy or land a critical hit, the active camouflage state, there is a 30% chance to re-enter it. Upon having the active camouflage state, your outgoing damage increase is doubled. But this is applied per pellet. Because Smithereens crits at 100% crit rate, there's no way you're not re-procking Ambushed every single time. So you'll see the perk, and then the perk will still be active. Unless you miss your critical hit or reload. Now you'll see the pellets on Ambush doing 587,000 at max, and without it, it does 336, almost double. It is quite substantial. So I do believe, and this is courtesy of another streamer, LAMBEAUXx, or LAMBEAUXx, if you'd like to call him that. I think we should all call him that, yes. He informed me about this last night. We traded some stuff. If you're interested in his stream, check him out in the description. But I do believe Ambush is the best way to play Smithereens. And we'll go to the greatest testing dummy alive until they're not, Devourer. So I have hyper focus on the build, and that is to just get some more gun damage. I tried to make a gun damage Sharen build. So I built her for maximum cooldown and gun damage, of course. Payout is on Blue Beetle. And you'll see just massive chunks of health taken down every time you can successfully hit his kneecap. Sometimes you'll have dodgy runs because, you know, that's how runs be. I do think Sharen is the best person to utilize this type of combat. Of course, you have Glay and Haley with their maximum crit builds and their unlimited ammo builds. But Sharen best utilizes combat cycles with her ambush abilities and her being able to cycle between different damage types. So as far as the Smithereens goes, this is, I believe, the most damage that you can get out of a single shot of Smithereens with using this build and the inversion reinforcement for whichever element you decide to stack on your gun. Technically, Toxic does the most damage because whenever you give toxic stacks to your own elemental enhancement module, you'll just come out with a little bit more damage. But I don't think the damage necessarily means that much. Now you will notice that whenever you go into a gun and you look at the attack for electric attack, it says that it provides a defense debuff. This defense debuff is not really anything of note, just so everyone is aware. It gives them about 3% of a defense debuff, which is very little amount of extra damage. However, it does give them a slight daze effect, which decreases their reaction time. And it's for a lot of reasons that I chose electric on Smithereens. The main reason I chose electric on Smithereens is because the two people that will be using it is Shotgun Bunny and Sharen. So they're both electric descendants, proccing the electric circulation module on it anyway. And that's just why I picked electric. It doesn't really matter, it's a dealer's choice. I actually find that chill is better in most scenarios. That is the Smithereens build, and that is the most damage that you're going to get out of your weapon. Weak point, firearm attack, Colossus attack, and critical hit damage for the rolls, and then this particular build with the elemental attack of your choosing, as well as one of the attribute focus rounds inversion reinforcement. And then, of course, the last one, enhanced focus rounds. If your whole build is situated around the Smithereens or that type of thing, I do recommend using the enhanced focus rounds for the attribute resistance removal of 20%. And if you're on Sharen and you want better damage over time, that 20% removal combined with the electric resistance reduction of 40% will give you 60% removal, which is nothing to scoff at. That is going to increase the amount of electric damage that you do, as well as the defense decrease amount. So if you're going firearm Sharen, I do recommend Battlesuit Melting Rounds with the Smithereens shotgun, and of course, Nazestral's Devotion. If you're interested in why Nazestral's Devotion and you don't know about the tech on Battlesuit Melting Rounds, please click one of these links up here. That is a link to the Naz for Sharen video. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Check out my channel. If you like the way I do content, consider subscribing. I did this video on Twitch. I do most of my stuff on Twitch, so check that out at the link in the description. Y'all have a sick day and peace out.